Should be showing up in the top corner. Yeah, now we're streaming live. So there you go.
Beautiful. Good afternoon, everyone. It is April 30th today, and we are coming to you with our 6th DEM Pure Educational Series. And we're really excited about this evening and the group of people that we have, and we're going to talk about the Pure certification, Pure product certification, and extracts and regenerative extracts and how we got here. We're going to talk about the Pure certification, Pure product certification, and extracts and regenerative extracts and how we got here.
Hang on, give me a second.
We're going to talk about the Pure certification, Pure product certification, and there it is. That was weird. Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Love that. Love the redo.
That was weird. I like it.
Happens. It happens. It's a trick, and sometimes it's someone has their mic unmuted and it's coming through their screen or their microphone. So go ahead.
So beautiful. So today we're going to let everyone introduce themselves, and we'll start off with Ryan from Aura Chocolate, and we'll go down the line.
And I just wanted to say really quickly, we have an incredible group here. Some of the most incredible extract artists, people who really know their stuff. Not only on the panel today are people extract, connoisseurs and artists, but also amazing regenerative farmers and growers. So yeah, Ryan, Aura Chocolate, amazing company. You guys, you and Charlotte are unbelievable. Tell us what's been going on.
Awesome, yeah. We're in San Rafael, California, in Marin County, just north of the Bay Area. And we are licensed operators in California here, sourcing only sun-grown flower from all regenerative farms. Jesse from BioVortex has helped us and introduced us to many great farmers over the years. We make a low-dose probiotic cannabis chocolate, and excited to talk about product certification and how we can pass all of the great efforts and works that the farmers have done to be DEM Pure certified and pass that on into the rest of the supply chain. So thank you for having us.
I love it. Thank you so much. Paul and Judy.
No.
Or I mean,
Paul
Ruby.
And Ruby.
Paul and Ruby, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say really quickly that you guys are just such an outstanding, amazing extractor in Oregon. The what you all put out to the market is the highest quality, and we're just so happy to have you all on tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are Full Circle CO2 recreational licensed processors in Oregon, specializing in full spectrum oil. We do a lot of toll work. We put out some low dose cannabis honey that's locally sourced. I know. So we're excited to talk like the beauty of low dose infused products with other people. Yeah, and we are sort of fighting the good fight in Oregon. The processors are a lot of big guys and the farms are a lot of small guys. So we're sort of doing that piece too.
Yeah.
And you write a lot of books, and you are both wonderful people just in general. So, I'll just put that out there for you.
We're so stoked to have you guys on tonight.
Thank you.
And our man Ganja Gill with the rig on the screen. We love you so much. Holding it down in Trinity County. You and Chelsea, amazing people. We always love everything you put out. You're intelligent, amazing. Really stoked to have you on tonight.
And if there was such a thing as 7-star, this man does it.
That's great. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Not much. Super stoked to be here with you guys. It's really nice just to see you. Bunch of people in the room. Nice to see Jesse and Season and Joey Berger on the screen. It's always good to see familiar faces. We're all busy this time of year, so it's nice to get a moment to hang out with y'all. Yeah, I'm just a ganja person. I love ganja. I love it. The only person who might love it more than me is Josh, but I think it's just because he's been loving it maybe a little longer. So maybe he's just, had a little time in the game. But other than that, I don't know. But yeah, I love ganja. I try to work with it any opportunity I can. try to help people on their ganja journeys. That's just kind of what I like to do with my time. It's very fulfilling and satisfying for me personally. So that's what I continue to do. I'm kind of a seasonal worker in the sense that I hash all winter long and grow resin in the summertime. That makes sense for me and my lifestyle. So that's what I continue to do. Kind of switching gears right now. I've only got a couple more days of washing left. I gotta admit, I'm kind of dragging it out. I'm kind of sad to see it end, even though I've been doing it all winter long. I kind of like don't want to see it totally be done. But days are getting warmer. Doesn't really work well for hash production. So gotta finish it, switch gears, get back into the resin farming, which I love just as much. So it's good. It keeps me occupied, keeps me entertained. Yeah, just stoked right now. Spring's my favorite season. Just kind of sets the stage for you to build everything on, and so much promise and hope, and just exciting times. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here with y'all. Stoked to smoke a bunch of hash, sit down, and see what y'all been up to. Much love.
Give thanks. I love the heart and soul that you put into everything. It really, really shows. You know, we can really feel that. So I appreciate that about you and Chelsea and the family there. So give thanks. One love. Joey Berger in the house. We appreciate and love you so much. You really have catalyzed the community in so many good ways, and you know, I'm really excited to hear about what's happening in Heartwood. So here, I guess I'm having problems with names tonight. But at Heartwood and in general, and yeah, we had a beautiful gathering there last year, and yeah, just want to give you a lot of acknowledgement and love, you know, for everything you put out to the community and what you represent. So
yeah, I mean, you're such a community center piece, and all of the work and the energy that you've put out, not only to regenerative farming, but also to hash making, and now creating this amazing educational forum up at Heartwood. So tell us all about it and what's been going on with you, Joey Berger.
Well, thanks for having me, you guys. It's certainly an honor to be on with this group, and just the way you guys have brought our community together has been so special. And can you guys hear me? Am I on? Okay. Yeah, I'm Joey Berger, the Humboldt local. I grew up here in Southern Humboldt. Longtime cultivator since I was a kid, pretty much, and certainly a connoisseur of concentrates. Judged for the Emerald Cup and a lot of other hash competitions around. The last couple of years I cultivated, I was partnered up with Regenerative Extraction. Shout out to Todd, an amazing solventless extractor who really got me. There it is. Jesse's got some of it right there. Really got me opened up to the life that was growing for hash. Before, we were just growing for bulk flower, trying to make those pounds, and growing for hash was a whole other ball game. Not just in the, you know, inputs we use, but everything, the techniques, how you handle the plants. There's so much to it. I also spent a lot of years selling extraction equipment through Trimsine Solutions. I supplied solventless and volatile equipment to the majority of the Emerald Triangle for 10 years. So I've seen a lot of these techniques. I've seen, you know, what they've done for our community, and sometimes to our community. And yeah, I'm just really excited for what the future holds, really excited for this regenerative movement, all the people involved, and yeah, excited to be talking today about my new project I'm working on up here at Heartwood Mountain Sanctuary. So we'll get into that a little later. But yeah, thanks for having me. Love all you guys.
huge acknowledgement to your mother and father and your whole family. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Season, amazing woman. Thanks for coming on again today. The work that you put in the community, I cannot say enough about it. You're just this incredible, bright, shining light. You're doing amazing things. What's been going on with you this week?
This week has been, well, it was my birthday yesterday, and I was running around a lot, just dealing with my family and trying to coordinate a birthday thing. Nothing exciting on the farm, really. I kind of took a break and just had some me time. But today I really wanted to talk about my alignment with a great solventless company and what they do how many farms they work, DEM Pure farms they work with, and where you can find their products. And, how it was that we found each other and really was able to develop a really strong business sense with them. So I'm excited to speak about that and list some places where you can find some good products that you can consume with confidence. So thanks for having me again. I can't believe it's my third time on. I'm going to take a break after this one and let somebody else talk. But again, thank you so much. I love you all.
Well, it's super important that you're on today. You know, the history that you have with hash. I'd love to just hear a couple minutes about that. There's a reason why you're here today. And, your history goes back a long way, and your love for hash and extractions. Tell us a little bit about it.
I grew up in San Diego, and San Diego has a big cannabis community there as well. And my dad, he was a painter. He knew a lot about screens. He had a lot of buckets, and he taught me as a young, like 16, 17 years old, how to spin. And when I came to Humboldt, I really grew. Sour diesel was my bread and butter, and everybody knows that makes really great hash. And that really, I noticed I had a few different farms going in different areas, and I noticed that I was growing the same genetics in different areas, and it would produce different puddings, different pulls. And so that really got me interested in, like, wow, how interesting, me personally, using the same farming techniques just from different areas could produce such a different product. And so that really got me looking closely. I work with an OG. He's 67 years old. He has a lot of experience producing large amounts of bubble. I mean, he manufactured this hilarious machine, and he can spin 6 kilos at a time. And I've been watching him do that for quite a while, and that's pretty impressive to a lot of people. Not that his product is, great, but just to learn from somebody who had the old ways and to watch it develop has been really fun for me. I was introduced to the Sasquatch rosin press when it first came out, and experimented with that, and that was a lot of fun, just seeing how that reacted, and that really got me. I spent some time with Todd as well, and he taught me a lot, so that was fun for me.
Beautiful.
Glad to be here.
I like it.
I love that story.
And Jesse, again, from BioVortex and the Regenerative Cannabis Farm Award, you have a lifelong love for herb and the alternative community, and everything that you've come from, and your family is just really beautiful. We appreciate them. You have a love for hash, and you've done a lot of work with growing and making hash, and I'm just excited to have your perspective this evening on maybe why you love regenerative farming and hash so much, and anything else you would like to say. But please introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't already know.
Hey, I'm Jesse. I do BioVortex, which is a conceptual art piece to influence the cannabis industry for a more regenerative future, thinking about the planet and community. I love cannabis. I love hash. What's really been amazing about hash, working with genetics and breeding, is looking at the differences of qualities of hash. And what was really great to see is that the best hash makers immediately saw a difference in soil grown, living soil, regenerative style cannabis. The trichomes that were produced from really true living soil, just were something completely different than what they were seeing from salt grown indoor. And when you grow in a way where it's actually very clean too, so a lot of the regenerative practices are making sure everything's mulched. There's no dust. There's plants everywhere. There's pollinators. It's a very alive and beautiful system, and there's not exposed soil, and there's not dust blowing around. That dust goes onto your trichomes, and that's the contaminant that you do not want to have to deal with. We have amazing extractors here, Ganja Gill. He understands that quality of resin and that's produced from a living soil that's clean of dust. But it's also the genetic that goes behind it is really important, because not everything catches. There's certain cannabinoid and terpene combinations that have different consistencies. Also, the shape of your head, the size of it, having like a nice plump 90 micron size head and a neck, like this morphology means a lot on whether it's going to catch or not. And so you're trying to like catch clean heads. So if something has a lot of necks, it might look frosty, but that might just fall through the mesh. Something also might look frosty, but it's really greasy, like the terpenes, it might be high myrcene, where it just greases right out. And a lot of CBD varieties are like that, so you don't see high percent yields in those. So very specific terpenes and cannabinoid seem to go with the trichomes that we're catching. So we could look at specific morphologies, and by doing that, you get to increase the percent yield. Let's say you're getting a 2% yield on something. It's like, okay, that's all right, that's working out. But this variety is getting a 3.5% yield. That's working out a lot better. Well, this variety's got 6%. You start working down that line where it's showing 6%, and all of a sudden you get 7, 8%. That farmer just grew 3 times as much in that same location. And that's really important, like the efficiency of square footage and your percent yield. That's less resources, that's more gain. And what I really love about ice water hash is, in a regenerative system, all you're doing is taking these few little grains of sand, these beautiful, flavorful, gourmet, mind-altering like pieces of sand, and everything else gets to go back. All the stalks, the leaves, the plant, even what you wash too, the flowers that you wash, those go right back into the soil, and the microbes love it, and they eat that, and that becomes nutrition for the food. So it's a good lesson in regenerative farming all the way. Like, it's the end process, it's the hash, it's it's actually extracting something, and we can have a positive influence on our land as we do that, when we pay attention to the genetics, the soil, the practices, and then we get this amazing gourmet experience. And man, here's some great ice water hash right here. But thanks, guys.
Beautiful. And the work that you've done at the Emerald Cup, and what the Emerald Cup has done, for our community, and what the Emerald Cup has done for Sun Grown, and just bringing forth that information is really potent. And I just want to give the Emerald Cup some love too for this evening. And
oh yeah,
Marcus is in the house. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's been a wonderful platform to be able to showcase these farms at such a large event, the largest outdoor cannabis event in the world. Although, yeah, we miss those events right now. It's a different place and time right now. But being able to have the regenerative agriculture garden exhibit, where we could showcase hugelkultures, we could have people actually put their hand in the soil, learn about Korean natural farming, different ferments and extracts, and be able to, all these farmers come together and connect. And yeah, but big thank you for the Emerald Cup for giving that place for people to understand about regenerative farming and to support those farmers.
Thank you. And also Cultivation Classic has done a lot, and you have the Regenerative Farm Award at that, the Cultivation
Yes,
Classic.
and I was just talking with them too. There won't be an event this year, but the award do have to go on. All the cannabis flowers were entered, and the amazing process that the Smart Cannabis process does to really look into the qualities of the flowers and how they affect a large group of people. That work has been done, and so it's going to be announced at the same date, and hopefully some other educational opportunities. So make sure to look into the Cultivation Classic and find out about this year's winners.
Thank you so much. And everyone knows Marcus, BC Bubble Man. Thank you so much, Marcus, for holding this space for us. I mean, we could say, that in so many ways, Hash Church and everything that you've done has really, really blossomed, a lot of these extracts and these different things. So I just want to, thank you so much for all the work and dedication you really have for our community. You put yourself out there a lot, and we just really appreciate that about you. And we also really want to thank you for this.
And we'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell us about Hash.
Yeah. You can thank me really for being in the right place at the right time, because that's really what it was. That's, and I want to talk about that time, because listening to everyone talk about, you know, their love of water extraction and how Jesse put it in this sort of fully closed loop regenerative way, even the water and the plants and everything's going back except these little grains, these little trichomes. How much of a nerd for cannabis are you? I have trichomes framed on my desk, sitting next to my computer, just to let you know the level that I'm at right now. So, you know, it's when it happened, the timing that I'm talking about was in 1999. And in 1999, I mean, really, the history of water hash that we know, because there's always going to be someone that's, oh, my dad was making water hash 47 years ago. And it's like, okay, well, there's no prior art that shows that. There's no internet, there's no photo magazine article, but the history that we followed back was that the furthest we heard was that an unknown American, Californian for sure, told Neville, the breeder, that trichomes were dense and sunk in water, that they could be filtered out. Neville never did anything with it, but he told Skunkman Sam in 1987. And in 1988, Skunkman Sam took out an article in High Times magazine called Sadhu Sam's Water Extraction Secret. And if you sent him $10, him and Rob Clark would reply to you with directions on how to make water hash with a little jar and just putting it in there and shaking it up and putting it on your windowsill and filtering it, you know, taking it off with a spoon, and just super ghetto. And, you know, of course, Skunkman Sam's done everything. Like, you really can't wrap your head around it. It's just insane. Super homage to him in every way, because he was a huge inspiration, both him and Rob, whether they knew it or not, putting a bowl of full melt into my pipe in 1995 in Amsterdam at the High Times Cannabis Cup. I'll tell you, I'd never seen anything like it. It was the most beautiful, you know, full melt bubble, basically. But dry sift on a screen, like glistening and glowing and bubbling, like before anyone had it. Like, trust that. Like, this was 1995. And when I saw it, I never stopped trying to make it and create it and come up with ways that I could have that. And so, you know, fast forward to 1999, in the same, God, it was like March, April. It was honestly like, I think within like a couple of months, like maybe even 30 days, that when I put bubble bags, when I created the name Bubble Bag and coined the term bubble hash and gave myself this ridiculous name of Bubble Man, thinking, oh, that'll stick around for maybe a year or two. We'll see what this, you know, see where we can take this or whatever, you know? And so it did something completely different. It went a lot deeper, but a month later, fucking Indra releases the butane method on fucking eroid.org under the name Indra, and that shit spread like wildfire. And I think the reason it spread like wildfire, in my opinion, and I'm biased and I'll probably get hammered for this really bad on social media and stuff, but I'm like way beyond caring and I don't identify myself by that shit anymore, so I'm good to go. I just felt like butane led you down this road that you always ran it, and it always kind of came out as like a gold looking nice, like, look at this, it's super nice. Like in the early days, especially, where everyone just thought that shit was all the same. They didn't understand the levels that you could achieve in it. And with water hash, you couldn't do that. Like, people would be like, oh, I tried your bags and it just came out all sandy and shitty. What am I supposed to do? I'm like, well, you know, ditch the salts, grow better weed, get better genetics. It's a whole list of things that you can do. It's a long path. You're probably not going to want to take it. So go buy a bunch of fucking cans of mercaptine filled fucking poison. And hopefully you don't blow yourself up and your family members. And then go squeeze this highly contaminated poisonous butane oil out so that it looks good and you can sell it. And people seem to take that shortcut with BHO. Bubble Bags didn't allow it. Bubble Bags said to you, this is all wrong. And you either went down the path of learning and trying to educate yourself, which always led to organic farming, regenerative practices. Like, everyone that takes the road ends up there eventually, because you see the expressions of these terpenes and these cannabinoids and the way they express themselves in living soils, in these biodynamic fucking farms with people that love the plant, and the whole vibration is all one connected thing. it just cannot be compared to, and I'm sure I'll get bashed by that too for the salt crew lovers, but we're here talking regenerative farming. So that's what I'll kind of say. It was just neat to kind of, it was that timing of bubble hash and BHO coming out on the, like literally a month apart, and BHO blowing up huge, no pun intended, but also blowing up huge. It seriously overnight became, well, the second most dangerous thing that had ever happened to cannabis, the DEA being the first most dangerous thing that ever happened to cannabis. BHO was a close second for sure. People have blown themselves up. Those paths of taking the shortcut or going down that path of like becoming more educated, becoming more understanding, and trying to understand these relationships, it always seems to lead to what we're talking about today and the DEM pure certifications.
Excellent, excellent, beautiful explanation. It's always good to hear, how it all comes around and stuff. And I feel like in a way that, that system is almost like the connoisseur grade. And here we are in this connoisseur moment right now. We're really truly being able to express it. So, and like you said, we're talking about today is regenerative farming and how it can lend itself towards products, CO2 products, hash. Ryan from Mora Chocolate is going to give us a presentation on what we've discussed about products and product making. But we're going to take a moment just really quickly to describe what the pure certification is and some of the requirements of it. On last week, we didn't get to that, and I'll make it fairly quick. And people even asked what DEM was. So DEM is just an acronym for Dragonfly Earth Medicine. The pure certification is something that we described early on in the beginnings of medical and the beginnings of recreational. There was no standards, there was no organic model that said these products are good for you. There was farms are doing whatever they're doing. They make butane, they may not be purged. The labs were kind of lacking. So we decided, that ecological growing and holistic growing was really important to us. And we wanted that to reflect in the products because we really believed in the human race. And we really wanted something better for everyone. And we've devoted our whole entire adult life to this. So we came up with the Pure certification, which is a holistic certification, which requires people to grow in their native soil in their long-term growing situations. So we've gotten rid of pots. We're using hugelkultur. We're using all these different methods. We basically feel like as homesteaders and as natural growers, we are taking all of the world's modalities that have been given to us: biodynamic teachings, Rudolf Steiner, natural farming, Master Cho, all the different Asian, Fukuoka, Sepp Holzer from with hugelkultur and the way that he terraces the Austrian Alps. Ruth Stout and all of the hay that she puts down. We love Ruth Stout. Just recognize that all these modalities have something to offer, but we didn't want to be dogmatic about one. So we're just adding all of it to ours. So our requirements, maybe you can help me with some of the requirements is.
So you have to plant in native soil. The other thing that's really important is that the holistic version of a certification means that you're using everything that's on your farm. What is it that you're planting? What kind of biomass are you planting? What kind of herbs can be used as a foliar spray? Really cutting out the idea of having to grow or having to pick up something from a grow store. And we even are a product company, and here we are always trying to talk people out of buying products, because we really feel that it's incredibly important that when you take your flower to market, that you know everything that went into it. You know exactly where all of those nutrients came from because you were growing it on your own property. So this is part of the 6 closed loops. So you have to have 6 working closed loops. And that means sun-grown is one, growing out of native soil, producing all of your own nutrients. And
creating agroforestry, growing your own food,
the list is
alternative
so long.
energy, which is whatever you can do to create a stacking function where one function leads into the next. We really wanted to we really wanted to create something that was beyond organics. We didn't want to just have a certification that was, here's a list of products, do they pass the test? What we wanted it to be was an action. So you have to grow food, you have to have pollinator gardens, you have to have flowers which support the environment. The ending products, we want all of the packaging to be eco-friendly. We want people to be able to work together and share their education. And I feel like,
and also, here we are talking about final products, and, in the DEM Pure certification, we didn't allow BHO, PHO, and X-hexane extraction. And the reason why we didn't is because there's not enough patient studies. That is it in a nutshell. We don't know what happens when you ingest these type of toxins into your lungs. Every time I talk to Ethan Russo, or I talk to other doctors who understand about cannabis and the different consumptions of it, we wanted to make a holistic certification that was good for the farmer, that we knew that their products were going to pass, and that it was good for the consumer, that everything that they ingested was going to be 100% healthy. So I think that this is almost—
And the most important thing about it is that it's free, and we wanted to make it free because we didn't want it to be a pay-to-play situation. We wanted it to be that you really embodied what you were doing, and what you were doing was good for the end consumer and for the environment. So it's a free certification that's really based in your actions.
And it's community minded, it's community run. Like Josh and I just sort of started it, and now there's like 80 farms, 300 collective members. Everybody is being involved. And I know Ryan and Charlotte, you've done amazing work with helping us with the new product certification. So we're coming out with a product certification. We're going to have a field certification. We're going to have a conscious cannabis indoor certification, so that a standard is set of the highest quality cannabis, that not only is it something that growers can follow those cultivation standards, but also you can have that stamp on your product. It's meaningful, and people know that they can count on it.
And everyone can find it on DEMpurefarms.com.
And now it's like a perfect time to just roll right over to Ryan. We'll talk about, the new DEM Pure product certification.
We've been working really hard as a collective and working together with you to come up with what we feel really embodies the principles that we're putting out. So I'd like to just welcome everyone to take a toke if they want, take some hits, sit back, listen to Ryan from Aura Chocolate and what you and Charlotte have been up to.
Awesome. So honored to be amongst these folks, and to be on with the host of Hash Church. That has been inspirational for a long time. We started our journey in cannabis professionally maybe back in 1996 up in the Oakland Hills under some lights with a fair amount of salt, and evolved from there. And over time, we found that there was many folks coming to it for health and wellness, and smoking was not necessarily the best option. And ingesting an edible, and particularly a low dose edible, was a great pathway for them to find the healing. And so my partner Charlotte created Aura, which is a low dose probiotic cannabis chocolate. So it's 5 milligrams of THC, 10 billion colony forming units of probiotic, and a 71% cacao dark chocolate. So it's a little piece of chocolate. We use all organic ingredients because, again, we want this to be approachable to as many people. Hey, Jesse, representing. There you go. When we went out and we're trying to source the best possible ingredients, obviously fair trade, organic chocolate, probiotics that were shelf stable for a year, but were created in a way that was sustainable. No GMO products. We use sunflower lecithin as opposed to soy lecithin to ensure there was no genetically modified organisms. We put all this intention into building this product, obviously cannabis being the most important ingredient. So you want to start with the best possible input. And so we started trying to source the best possible cannabis we could. And as many of us know, the best cannabis in the world is grown in the soil, under the sun, with closed loops in a regenerative manner. And we just so happened to befriend Jesse, who has taken us on this journey over the last couple of years and introduced us to many of the people on this call right now, many of the people in chat right now. We feel very, very lucky to be able to candidly smoke some of the best cannabis in the world and know people and build a community amongst people that are putting their best foot forward, truly to heal the world. And so we've been huge fans of DEM Pure for so long, and it's been an honor to be able to help contribute some of that thinking to passing the highest standard that farmers apply to their craft, and how we can ensure that they don't become disintermediated through at least the retail experience, and they can be passed down, and customers that may not know their farmer but are drawn to, say, an edible for their first time, or they're revisiting with cannabis, can see, much in the same way that we believe the endocannabinoid system and the microbiome is a closed loop within one's own body. We think it's a beautiful metaphor to regenerative farming, in that you have microbes that help make things bioavailable. And those two things fit really, really nicely. But the bottom line is that we, as product makers or manufacturers, or in the state of California, type in infused product makers, want to ensure that we're sourcing the best possible product. And so we don't have the ability, because of state regulations, to use the word organic on our product anywhere. So you can have a long list of ingredients, but you can't, although they may all be organic, you can't actually mention that. And so we're always looking at ways that we can ensure that the quality of our product is passed on to our consumer, and we educate that consumer. And so looking at existing certifications that take the highest possible standard in quality and sustainability for the earth is something that we wanted to associate with. And so it's been great to be able to take the learnings that we've gleaned from the DEM Pure community and apply them to infused products, and then kind of flow that backwards as well. And so over the last, I'd say 6 months or so, we've been working on taking the certification process for farms and apply that all the way through the supply chain to extractors, to processors, and eventually down to the infused product. And so what I'd love to do today is kind of walk you through what we think is a first step at what a infused product certification would be for the DEM Pure Collective. If it's all right with you, I can share my screen. Yeah, sweet. All right, come on, technology. Is that working for you guys? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, awesome.
Looks great.
Thank you. So infused products is basically anything that takes cannabinoids, terpenes, and infuses it. And so there's a process of processing the flower and extracting the flower, and eventually you'll want to put it into a topical or a tincture or an edible. And in doing so, we wanted to kind of ensure that all of these other ingredients that we're now kind of contributing and adding to this final product that a patient or consumer is going to ingest is going to maintain the same intentionality and quality that the farmer had put into their final yield. So in a perfect world, the least amount of processing, usually the better. Like, nature doesn't need much help, right? But there are, of course, edge cases where sometimes a little processing can help. Or in the case of my partner, Charlotte, she created an edible because she couldn't smoke. She had her tonsils removed and smoking was just not an option. And so ingesting an edible was a great way for her to reap the benefits and stimulate her endocannabinoid system. And so she went out and created an infused chocolate. So there is some processing involved, so you must remove the cannabinoids. And I think we've kind of collectively agreed that the closest to nature is the best. And so as a whole, we've made a decision not to allow any, as we look to divest from hydrocarbons, we're not allowing any BHO extractions for infused products. So CO2 is a great option. Clean alcohol, steam distillation, and of course, cold water hash, all great options for extracting and concentrating cannabinoids. We want to ensure, obviously, no cross-contamination of any non-DEM Pure certified product. On with keep your streams clean. And then we have a list of the same sort of cleaning materials and additional kind of either compostable or biodegradable accoutrements that one might need in the creation of one products to kind of minimize our overall footprint. We can get into employment and community requirements later, but probably the big one here is if you're creating a infused product, we want to ensure that all of the ingredients that are in that infused product are either certified organic. They're not, there's no GMO, they're not irradiated, they don't come from nasty places. We certainly don't want nanotechnology in there. We'd like them to also be certified fair trade. And that gets down to stuff like, chocolate and sugar. In a perfect world, you're sourcing materials for your infused product from the actual DEM Pure certified farms. Many of our farms in the collective are really interested in food security. And so they're practicing a lot of diversification on their and polyculture on their land. So, we're interested in sourcing lavender from Alpenglow as an example, as an additive, as ways to just kind of minimize as much as possible our impact on the earth and to accentuate and propel farmers to make a sustainable way at it. And so cannabis is one crop, but you may have other crops on your land, and infused products can benefit from that. In some cases, one might be wild foraging ingredients that and maybe certification is difficult in that process. One hopes that comes from a DEM Pure certified farm. But in the rare cases where you may be wild foraging products, there is one final required test that may help satisfy that need. So that gets us to any infused product and above and beyond kind of heavy metal testing and all of the regulatory requirements that your locality may require. We're also requesting a glyphosate test for fungicides. So that is definitely the highest standard. And I think for those that understand the perils of glyphosate and sadly its abundance on this planet, this is really why this is what we kind of, I hate to say, get most excited about, because it's effectively setting the highest possible standard for true health and wellness. And then lastly, if your product does include any water, now again, this is infused product. So if you are making a topical or an oil or a cream or a coffee that requires a certain amount of water, we just ask that water be filtered as well. And there's an ANSI 401 standard, which kind of ensures that the filter is removing 13 plus known contaminants. Sorry to get way into the weeds there, and hopefully didn't throw off anyone's buzz, but wanted to definitely just kind of lay it out there that we've been doing a lot of thinking on how we can ensure that all of the intention and quality that the farmers put in growing with 6 closed loops can be extended to the supply chain, knowing that many customers, and sadly we're in a capitalist environment, for better or for worse, it's how we have to operate, it's how we're going to make it in this environment. We want to try to preserve all of the ideals that got us into enjoying and cultivating and farming cannabis, and don't want the farmers to be disintermediated along the way. And all too often you'll see in infused products where they don't even talk about, yet alone what cultivar certainly not who grew it or where it was grown. And that's obviously, to a certain extent, a part of our history. But as the legality of the plant changes, we think it's extremely important to ensure, from a community perspective, that anyone that is infusing cannabis byproducts into their finished product knows their farm and showcases their farm. And so that is also a requirement of the DEM Pure Infused product, is that you visit a farm and that you highlight and showcase that specific farm, so that the farmer is not disintermediated and becomes a commodity in this process. I won't go into packaging requirements or anything. I'll leave it at that, if that's all right, Kelly and Josh. But open to any questions, or we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful explanation. I think with packaging, we can just say that it's our biggest goal and passion to get the most eco packaging that we can. If it's biodegradable, we're making sure that it's not coming from a GMO source, and so on. So and we also recognize that some of the requirements of regulations within the legal market don't allow us to actually have the packaging that in our hearts we really want to. So we're just, that's a reality, and maybe we can just continue to lobby, you know, whatever.
Well, and we're going to hopefully be able to talk about that a little bit later, as far as how greenwashing goes, and also how state to state, and how even Canada is forcing us into certain packaging that really doesn't make any sense. Not only is it toxic, but, you know,
we're trying to heal people,
crazy,
including the earth, and bad packaging is bad for the earth. So.
Certainly, I think it's safe to say, for anyone that is kind of farther down, you know, plastic is required. And so we are aspiring to move towards glass as much as we can, to things that can be reclaimed and at least recycled, if not compostable. It is not only just cost preventative, but in just candidly, in many options and form factors, it's just not available yet. But one hopes that we set a high standard, and as this movement grows, the power of number, just as we've seen in the food web, it's hard to find, say, non-organic microgreens in certain areas because the demand is so high for organic products. One hopes that over time, regulations will kind of move, and we will be able to lobby. So we are making the first step with the greatest intention, aspiring to something much better, knowing that we're not there yet. But this is the first of many, many steps forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Ryan, deep gratitude, you know, for all the work that you've been putting into it, and you and Charlotte for the integrity that you're holding within this community is the highest standard, and that really emanates in your education to the community, and we're just so thankful for you. As well as, I'd love to move it over to Paul and Ruby, talking about supporting community, supporting local farmers. The work that you all are doing has been really incredible. And, you know, we've come out to your place. You guys have the closed loops. You guys are really there with this regenerative extraction. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, you know, Paul, you created that entire machine, you know, for a reason. It's a passion for you. And I'd love for you to talk about why CO2, and also your direct relationship to the farmers, and what's been going on in Oregon.
What do you got? There you go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, CO2, it was kind of an obvious choice for an extraction method when I decided to become an extractor. I figured if you loved cannabis, you'd want to try and make extracts out of something that is at least a natural solvent, if you're going to use a solvent. You know, that just seemed to make the most sense. Plus the safety issue. You know, we want to make sure that we're putting out the cleanest products that we can. So it was the harder route to take. You know, the easier route could have been butane, you know, not really worrying about safety and health and wellness and those kinds of things, but it's well worth it. Well worth it, of course.
I think too, you know, we're listening to the story of the early days. Can you hear us? Yeah, you can hear us. Okay. So we're listening to those stories of those early days of butane and how it was sort of readily accessible really quickly to so many people. CO2 also had that big learning curve. And I think it's still in that place because we haven't had as much time. I think that there's a lot of exciting possibilities that are really similar to things like, you know, water, because it is that really clean solvent. I know with our business, I mean, like, first of all, Ryan, like, you are so right on. Everything, everything that you had to say is like just so incredibly right on. And I think that in our business, you are mirroring a lot of what we're trying to do, which is radicalize closed loop thinking in outside of the farm setting, you know? So we have to really start looking at like every aspect of business. So for us, you know, we say yes and to everything that Ryan has said, and we say we'd like to add to that sustainable transportation. You know, there are dispensaries that we supply that if we were allowed to, we could walk our product to, and we're not allowed to. And we need to start adding, you know,
They're our neighbors.
They're our neighbors. You can get to them, you know. We talk about reclaiming materials and the buildings and the facilities. In Oregon, a lot of the processing facilities themselves have massive footprints. And ours, of course, you have been to, does not have a massive footprint, but we managed to get it done anyway. And so we really work on reclaiming materials, having our own facility mirror some of the things that we see in the farms, and then really sourcing locally, reusing, all of those things that we can do to sort of stretch the concept of what a closed loop means for processing and manufacturing. So hopefully that speaks to sort of what you were asking about.
Yeah, for sure. And I would also love to know, you all have direct relationships with your farmers. I know that you work with several DEM pure farmers, and I just wanted to talk about the importance of the relationship that you have as an extractor, you know, directly to your community and your farmers.
Can we shout out to the Snodgrass family and their beautiful farm?
Big love to the Snodgrass family.
American coffee, holding it down, amazing flowers that they grow on a beautiful farm.
Yeah.
We just ran, actually yesterday we ran some of their Hindu Kush, and I mean, beautiful. I mean, we pulled 80 milliliters of terpenes off of 10 pounds.
Yeah,
Truly spectacular extraction that came from their farm. So yeah, we have a long-term relationship with them too. You know, we try to help, you know, them out with their brand on toll processing. We also include them with our brand, you know, that we provide to the stores too. We don't look at our farm relationships as processor farm, you know, one-sided. We operate as a partnership, and that's super important.
business model matters. If you don't want to disenfranchise farms, then business model really matters a lot. So we like toll processing because we are providing a service to farms who are in need of value-added products. And when you toll process, you give them an opportunity to showcase their product the way that they want it to be showcased. But we also have an umbrella group that we work under. We've partnered with Tommy Chong, and we do a profit share with our farms. So we never purchase cannabis to process. We are always on either a profit share that's a fair profit share, not a split, or we are being paid to provide a service. And we feel like that never puts us into competition with our farms, and always allows us to be elevating them, and also allows for the economics to be a lot more fair than a lot of the stratified systems that we see in other legal markets that's emerging.
Do you find that you get more terpenes off of regenerative flowers than, say, non-regenerative
Or
flowers?
salts or indoor? What do you see as far as outdoor beautiful soil grown compared to indoor salts?
If you're
Yeah,
using
higher terpene values on that. Absolutely. Yeah, up to threefold as much. In fact, right before I ran the Snodgrass's material, we ran some beautiful indoor. It's going to be very potent, but that indoor only yielded about 35 milliliters of terpenes. So there's something to be said for what happens under the sun, you know.
right, exactly. Again, as we've already stated, Mother Nature really does best. You know, it's to us to just facilitate that. You know, so one last thing that I thought of was, or we thought of was, what are some other things besides vape pens that CO2 extracts can be used for? Are there edible companies getting in touch with you? Are there
Give us a
beverage
list of
companies, or
what
what are some
CO2
other
goes
things
into.
that CO2 can do?
Oh yeah, super highly infusible. For edibles, it's wonderful for edibles. It carries the terpenes very well. We can even leave it, as a whole plant. For edibles, we can use the waxes and lipids too. So we can be as close to the plant as possible when we infuse it. For vapes, it's great. Vapes all day, but
Topicals.
we do have to refine it some.
Topicals.
Wonderful for topicals.
Medicinal topicals. There's amazing infused into medicinal topicals. I can't say enough.
We make a 6% THC for home, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
We started out using crude originally, supercritical fractional CO2 extraction with the lipids and paraffins, perfect for chocolate, encases the cannabinoids, shelf stable, can go through the tempering process without a degradation, like
Decarb
CO2,
nicely.
spectacular. There are a lot of interesting things you can do with CO2 for sure. And you can dial that in, you want some terpenes, you don't want others, you want complete whole plant, you have that optionality in a gentle way.
Yeah.
And if you get a beautiful flower and a nicely processed oil, then you can actually do really beautiful flavor pairings so that you're not, especially for edibles producers, you're not competing against that strong cannabis, because CO2 gives you like a really fresh, full range of all of the notes. So you can, like what we do with our infused honey, we find the strain that elevates the honey flavor, and it's really special.
That's excellent. And I guess just really quickly, why did you choose CO2 over butane?
Or maybe, as a consumer, you're consuming CO2, you're consuming flour, other healthy edibles.
Or propane, I guess.
Well, why wouldn't you choose another solvent?
I worked in environmental cleanup and contamination and remediation as a professional geologist.
Can you come closer to the mic?
Yeah, I worked in environmental contamination and environmental cleanup for 10 years as a geologist, and am a working environmental advocate. And I don't use butane and propane for anything other than, like propane to run something like an engine, necessary camping, things like that. I wouldn't put those anywhere near me. And also, we don't want to blow ourselves up.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you getting close. And again, these are our philosophies. These are the principles that we believe in. And this is what we're putting forward. So thank you so much. And I think we're going to move over towards season now.
Season, we were just talking with Paul and Ruby about direct farmer relations, from the processor to the farmer. And now we wanted you to talk a little bit about the importance of a direct relationship that you've had with other processors. So tell us a little bit about that and why it's so important, and how that spreads into the community in a really positive way, and then that getting to the consumer.
Well, this particular company that I've had a lot of success with, they contacted me because they were searching out regenerative farmers. I got basically like a cold call from them. And normally when I get a cold call, I don't stay on the phone for an hour, and these guys were really passionate and I felt like they had the message. And at the time I was looking for some DEM Pure farmers to fill a booth that I was having as an educational booth. And I couldn't find enough DEM Pure farmers to get in there and in the timeline. And I got Moongazer, who was awesome. And this company I found had already worked with several DEM Pure farms, and they had several test results, and they had found different test results from the dry farmers. They had really kind of quantified these results and were educated about them. And I said, I was so happy to support this new company, these young guys, and who were really passionate, and they filled my booth and really were able to engage with the community. And this was a booth not at a cannabis event, it was more like a festival. And so it was really interesting to be in a setting to be able to reach a totally different demographic who weren't necessarily interested in choosing for ethics, and they didn't really at that point, didn't really care until we engaged with them, and then they were able to see the difference. And I felt like, wow, how advanced for this new company to have such a focused business model. And it's really has set them apart. And, they work with 7 DEM Pure farms in the area, which is a lot, and several other farms that are either in application process or, dry farms, who are very close to our ethics. They use Santa packaging. So, for me, I was really one of the very first products that hit the shelf had my logo, and I had to call and check with Josh and Kelly to make sure that we could put the Dragonfly Earth Medicine stamp on it, because at the time, we don't have a product certification. And they had worked with Swami. They had reputable alignments already, and I was just really proud that my one of the first products to hit the shelf had that stamp that showed that I was able to align with a company that valued us, who promoted our values, who already appreciates and had sought out the farmers in the group. And for my first pre-rolls out came in Santa packaging, which was in reclaimed ocean plastic. For me, it was a little bit daunting, as a young company. Like, I hope I don't it was daunting for me to, like, who can I align with, and for them to seek me out and just rep so hard for me. I've just been so honored to work with them, and super stoked to see them be so successful. They're in 77 different dispensaries across California. They told me they just got into Barbary Coast and Harborside. I was like, way to go, guys. I mean, this is a small company. And honestly, at that
let's big up this company. Who is it, Season? What's the name of the company?
Hella Dank. Their name is Hella Dank. Hella Dank. And they are just really just sweet. They have they're so humble, and they're just stoked. They don't I don't know. A lot of people, I wouldn't feel so confident to just honestly, I had them in my booth. I had only had a conversation on the phone with them. And once they got to my place, I was like, oh gosh, maybe I should have, the pressure was on, and they did a really great job. And it's been a great relationship ever since. And, and I'm really proud to know that so many other farms have taken them in too. And so that lets me know I made a good decision, and then it's comforting being in a circle like this, because Five Sisters Farm won't have a product from Hella Dank for another couple months. They've run through most of mine, but now they know, people know that if they choose Hella Dank, it's coming from a DEM Pure farm. So really aligning with those farmers has boosted their brand, because throughout those dispensaries, anybody can go in and ask and for their products with confidence. And I think that is huge for each one of our farmers, not just me, you know. So I'm proud of them.
Can you
One
name
thing
drop-
I have,
can you name
say that
drop
again?
more of the awesome pure farms that Hella Dank works with?
Yeah. Moon Gazer, Sun Roots, Swami Select, Lady Sativa, Heart Rock Mountain. Yeah, there's more. There's
Radical
a few
Herbs.
others that Radical
I,
Herbs. Yes,
I
Radical Herbs was
Radical
on there. Sorry. Totally radical. So I mean, those are some of the best, I gotta say, and so they were really smart to launch themselves pursuing those farmers, because it really allowed them to have a great product. They were able to make a 6-star out of one of mine, and that's pretty groovy if you ask me. I'm proud of them. So yeah, earlier when Marcus was talking about the hash market and how young or old it is, I happen to have a first copy of High Times, and it has the market quotes of 1974 of how much hash was going for then, and it was like $400 a pound, which I thought was interesting, you know. And you really couldn't find it. It looks like you couldn't find it in the States hardly. Most of those listings were in Europe. So that was a fun fact. Market has changed a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted
Marcus was
to.
gonna say something.
Oh,
Were you gonna say something about that, Marcus, by any chance? Just curious.
Oh no,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just accidentally unmuted my button for a second and then muted it again. But you're sharp, Josh.
what I wanted to say was that you all can see the excitement that Season is emanating in working with an extractor or a product company that really aligns with what she feels is important. This in and of itself is a closed loop. I believe this is sacred commerce. This is how we bring up our community. This is how we continue to be able to have the cannabis community involved in the current cannabis industry. If the cannabis culture is not involved in the cannabis industry, then we've lost the potency of what cannabis really has to offer. And Season, I just love it because you're going on about how, you know, you got together, you were educating each other, you were educating, you know, the community with what it meant and what it was that they were doing. So it shows like an education all the way through the whole process, from the farmer all the way to the finished product. And I actually think this is incredibly important. And I do believe that if consumers are given this education in the market, that they will choose a regenerative product, because they know not only is it healthy, is it closed loop, is it sacred commerce, but it's also supporting the cannabis culture. So thank you so much, Season, for talking about that, because I think that it's incredibly important. And also, Paul and Ruby, what you all talked about as a producer, being able to work with farmers that you know have a really exciting, you know, flower that's coming in. And when the snodgrasses bring you something, you guys are just like, yeah, I can't wait to see what it is. It's so exciting, because you know that they carry the same values as you all do. And I can't really, you know, discuss that more and the importance of it. And now we want to move over to Ganja Gill, because Gill, you are a farmer. You're closing the loop completely. You're a regenerative farmer as well as a regenerative hash maker. You're doing all of the steps. Talk to us about that and why it's so important in the finished product.
And what is, single source, hash, what you're doing. And also, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear just about some of the strains that you're growing this year, and maybe which ones you really liked from last year.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start with the strains, I guess, because that's the easiest thing. But I'm growing some cake crasher, some wedding cake, some ice cream cake, some orangeade, something else back there, some do-si-dos. And I got a bunch of seeds that I cracking that I'm real stoked on. That I got some from Jesse from BioVortex. He gave me some, like, I believe GMO banana dog and just some straight up banana dog, some papaya cross, a lot of papaya crosses. People seem to like the papaya terps, so I got a lot of the papaya, a lot of banana OG, a lot of the stuff that's got that drier resin that's kind of easier to capture. I got some exotic genetics going as well. Some strawberry stuff. You know, all the fruity terps. I feel like I try to do a healthy balance of gas and fruit, but it seems like people are really kind of sprung on the fruit in my area. That's what people are really into. So.
And how well is the funk representing?
As far as, like, I love funk, man. Like, all that's on my table right now is gas. It's Motor Breath 15. It's GMO.
You ever have the
OG.
dank ass bitch, the dab from Hybe?
No, I've never had that. Never
That had
that.
this like emerald triangle funk. It was an emerald triangle funk cross, and that was the funk of funks.
That was probably before my time, and you know, I don't know about that one. I believe you. You know, I love funky terps. I love gross stuff. You know, cheesy, kind of gross, putrid, rotten stuff. That's kind of like what I'm personally into. So I always try to do a little bit of both for sure. But yeah, I just wanted to, like, I guess, go into how regenerative farming really allows the resin to really kind of be showcased, and how it can really, you know, benefit the regenerative community. I like to see how Hella Dank's teaming up with everybody. I think that's really cool. Definitely, that's when I feel like Appalachian and Terroir and even years really come into play. Like, it's kind of, I don't really like when people compare wine to cannabis, but you know, it's just like how certain years could be a certain thing. Resin's the same way. I grown GMO the last 3 seasons in the same beds, same schedule, and I actually have fresh frozen from all those years, and I just washed them in the last few days going back, and they're different. You know, they're all great, but they're different. You can taste sweetness in one's a little more funky. Yields are even slightly different. And it just really only happens when you're growing cannabis and outside. That's why I choose to only grow cannabis outside now. Growing inside, I've got some friends doing some really cool stuff back east. Shout out Livity. They're doing some really cool stuff, building soils inside. Much respect to that. You can definitely do some great things. Big up Steve Cantwell at Green Life Productions. He's doing amazing things, building soils inside. So it can be done, but I still feel like there's something to a plant actually growing under the sun and living and breathing in a non-HVAC room. You know, it's like, it's different. It produces a different thing, and you really know when you smoke the concentrate. It's very obvious, especially if you just fresh freeze the material. There's really messed up, in my opinion, and you just taste it. It's more than the purest sense of it, and I just feel like that's a big leg up that this community will have. And to even reiterate that is, a lot of us are smaller farmers. We have smaller canopies. We don't have 100,000 square feet. I walked a 40,000 square foot farm today. It was 38,000 square feet of greenhouse. You know, a lot of us don't have that, but it's a way where Jesse was talking about something yielding 2%, 4%, 6%. My GMO yielded 8.35%. That can take a really small farmer into quadrupling potentially their yield. That's huge, you know, for a small farmer. That's the difference between maybe making it in this industry and not, sadly, you know, because it's going to be hard for the small farm. But I think hash making could save us. I really believe it. I think it's something to like take seriously. I'm stoked to always see people get involved. I really promote people to do it themselves. I don't think you need to invest a ton into it. Doesn't need a ton of equipment. If you're in California, type 6 is way easier to get than the type 7. It's actually obtainable. Always cooperative styles, team up. I think it's a great idea. Stoked to see people doing that. And yeah, sun-grown's the way. Grow big plants, you grow big resin heads. It's just bigger, it goes off more. It's more just the way it is, you know. It's like proportional. It's anatomy almost, you know. And when I wash outdoor material, you're just capturing all of those large heads. I want that. That's what I'm smoking. I'm smoking the 160 to 190 because it's just, that's what I want, you know. Everyone wants that 190 to 120, they think. And like, it's good, you know what I mean? But I'm all about those bigger heads, and sometimes that 120's hit. And
That means
when you wash that indoor
liquid
material,
cannabis.
thanks, man. I appreciate that. And when you wash that indoor material, you get those smaller heads. You get it all in those bad things. I don't really even pull much 45U. There's really nothing in there, you know. It's not even good food grade and whatnot, but like there's nothing really in there. I don't even bother messing with it. I give it off to someone to do something else with, you know, kind of spread the love type thing. But yeah, I love resin, love cannabis. Sun grown is definitely the way. You know, most people are trying to just replicate environments indoors, especially with salt grown synthetic mediums. You're just trying to replicate an SOP. Doesn't matter what state you're in, what area you're in. Mixed for a generic product, in my opinion. You bring it outside, you know, you grow it in a different climate, grown by a different person, different year. Different, you know, and it's cool to enjoy it. And as the cannabis community gets more educated with consumption and go down that road, they'll start to dive into it and learn what I'm talking about, or you may already know what I'm talking about and you already are stoked on it. And the possibilities are just endless, you know. It's a deep, deep rabbit hole that I plan to be down and following for the rest of my life, you know.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think that it sums up, you know, who you are. You're really definitely talking about, you know, you're not just a cannabis farmer. It's who you are, Gil. When you're sitting with you and we're talking about your hash, what it is that you do, it's your entire life, you know. And I feel like anybody here, I always make a joke that, you know, with Josh and I, even if the conversation starts out in California pageantry, somehow we end up talking about cannabis. You know, it could start anywhere. We're talking about highways in Alaska and we end up in cannabis, you know, and just sitting down with you and hearing, you know, the process that it goes through and the love that it goes through. And I did have a question. You know, you're always trying to better your hash. You're always trying to do it better. And even in the years that I've known you, I've seen it get better. Like, wow, really beautiful. Some of the best hash in the world that this man is making. Is there something that maybe you did within your farming or your regenerative practices that really like upped that? Did you notice like that connection of farming and cultivation to the resin heads?
Again, I feel like really just like closing the loop as far as possible through composting really kind of changed the game for me. I got real interested in thermophilic composting and just worm bins, worm compost, and then essentially, you know, cannabis composting. The reality of it is if you want to think about, you know, let's say something yields 5%, that to me means I'm putting 95% of the material back into my compost and essentially back into my soil, which I just feel like is doing something, you know. Like I don't know exactly what it's doing, you know. I'm not super interested in the microscope work as I maybe should be, but I just feel like that just putting it right back into it, just making it more fungally dominant over the years by having more wood chips. You know, I know Jesse kind of showed me that more wood, the better, you know, obviously within reason. I was really stoked on Steve Cantwell's little rock trick. He likes to throw rocks in his bed, big flat rocks. I think that's a good move too. I kind of like that. But really just focusing on building the soil. That's what it really came down to, is like not really stressing the plant so much, but just really building the soil and just focusing on that, giving right back to the piles, putting it back out there, and kind of trying to work more with native soil. You know, I kind of, like a lot of people in the Emerald Triangle, I don't know, I kind of did things every which way, you know, and I've done things definitely the wrong ways over the years, but learned from them. And, you know, I started with like recycling used potting soil, like a lot of people, unfortunately. And it's stuff's dead. It's really hard to bring life back into it. It takes years and years and years, in my opinion. Whereas, you know, if you actually start with a real native soil and really build off that, you're so much more ahead of the game. You know, I like wish I knew that. People were so scared to like bring, you know, woods material and outdoor stuff into their sterile ganja farms, because a lot of us started on the inside and then we came outside and would never dream of like, you know, mixing with the woods and putting it into your stuff. It just seemed crazy, you know, but kind of let go of all those fears and just like free yourself of it. And then you kind of just start working with the materials, and it's like a real creative process. It's fun. I tell people it's intuitive. I don't know what I'm talking about. I really don't. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm authority on anything. I'm just out there having fun, you know, seeing what kind of works and what doesn't. And that definitely just, I feel like that unto itself really just made me focus in and dive into it more, to where I was really paying attention. And then by actually capturing the resin, it's just another way to look at it even closer, like literally through a magnifying glass, and see and analyze what you're doing even more closely.
Exactly. And I always love taking a big drink out of the water as it's being washed. And I feel really good about being like a carbon farmer, or, you know, wood chip farmer, all that stuff. And I have in my terp water, and then I'm feeling it sinking. It sinks into the fuses into the soil. And I'm just like, again, I don't know everything either. I just know what's in my heart. And I think experience stands for itself too, you know, so over the years you see it getting better. So, you know.
I wanted to roll that same exact question
Thank
over
you,
to
Phil.
you, Joey. Like, you're also somebody who's been years of cultivating plants for resin, and you've been always getting better, you know, at your resin and what it is that you've done, you know, in concentrates. What kind of things have you done in cultivation practices that have really upped your hash game or your concentrate game?
Or community.
Yeah, well, you know, certainly closing those loops like you talked about. You know, making your own fertilizers, building those soils. I mean, those are all key things. And we talk about terroir. We talk about really tasting a product and where it came from. And you can taste a lot of products. You're like, oh, this came from the grocery store. I know exactly where this came from. I know exactly what it tastes like. But when I smoke Gil's stuff, I know it tastes like Ganja Gil's yard. I know it tastes like his tastes like Trinity County to me. When I smoke some BioVortex, I know it tastes like Jesse's heart and soul. When I just know farmers are capable of so much more. And when we're actually using the native soil and using plants that you grew on your land, you wildcrafted on your land, that makes your product so uniquely you. So I'm on a new piece of land right now. I'm in a new garden for the first time right now. I'm going to give you guys a little history on Heartwood. This is actually a property I grew up on. My parents founded a massage school here in the late 70s and then moved it up here to Humboldt in 81, where I was born in January of 82. So for 30 years, it was a massage school, healing arts college. My dad's a body worker, a polarity therapy teacher, and my mom's a midwife and a herbalist. And Heartwood was an early really early in the permaculture scene. They were teaching permaculture here in the 90s. I took a permaculture design course here in 98. They were real pioneers in alternative living and natural building. We have the largest permitted straw bale temple here in California. At the time it was built, it was the largest permitted straw bale building in California. There's a cob house here that was the first cob house built in California. So Heartwood's got a long history of being really fucking groovy. And for the last 15 years, it's changed hands a couple times. It's got some incredible owners right now, the Dorrance family. Shout out to them, Delphina and Bennett, who've been just super supportive of this industry, are a big part of the DEM family. You know, we had an amazing DEM gathering here in December. I started pitching these guys regenerative cannabis about 6 years ago. They were saying, "What do we do with Heartwood now? What's the next phase of Heartwood?" And you know, 6 years ago was a little early to start teaching this stuff hands-on. It was a no-go, but the time is right now. It opened up for me where the time was right in my life, take on something new. I sold my farm this last year and looking for new opportunities, something that's going to feed my soul. I kind of got out of the licensed recreational rat race. Yeah, so our plans before COVID are very different than our plans right now. When I came up here 2 months ago, the plan was to build a residential 9-month curriculum here for regenerative cannabis, have students come in February of 2021 and stay through December. In that time, you'd be working on the farms with me here. We'd be bringing in a lot of the DEM family to help with a lot of these workshops. I want to see these students leave with a 2-week PDC under their belt. That'd be taught by me and my permaculture mentor, Nadine Chapdelaine. Nadine was the farmer and landscaper here at Heartwood for the first 20 years of its existence. She was a big mentor of mine when I was a teenager, oversaw my permaculture designs. I was a junior high dropout and had very supportive parents and was lucky to be in this incredible neighborhood here. This is the Palo Verde Appalachian, an area of southern Humboldt with 50 years of cannabis history. The very first seeds from Afghanistan, the very first indicas were brought to this neighborhood, and that completely changed the direction of all this cannabis for a lot of us. It was all sativas from Mexico and Colombia up until then. So yeah, just really fortunate to be able to grow up here with this experience and see what we can do moving forward. The other part of that curriculum we want to see, I've been talking to Leighton Morrison. Shout out Leighton. I saw him in the chat earlier about coming out and teaching a living soils workshop, a microscope class. I've been talking to Chris Trump about coming up and training up all our kids on KNF. Chris is really inspirational to me. I learned a lot just watching his YouTube videos a few years ago. He was really my introduction to natural farming, and had a lot of fun. Made some KNF inputs this week. I made a few batches of IMO, had a couple nice IMO collections, made some fermented plant juice the other day. So yeah, those were our plans. Start booking up workshops and symposiums. We were supposed to be having another DEM gathering this weekend. I miss all you guys so much. I wish we were all here right now partying. I thought this was going to be an incredible summer. I'm going to be at the pool. We're having pool parties and raging it up and put the brakes on. Not happening. So time to pivot. How do we do that? What is the transition? For us, it's a transition to online content. We don't know when this is going to be over, when this thing's going to be lifted, when are the good parts of normal going to return to normal. So right now we're working on a fun little project with our sister farm, the Dragonheart Farm. This is a farm out on the Big Island where Josh and Kelly just visited and certified. They've got an awesome farmer out there named Keegan I've been talking with a lot. So we're putting out a little video series, collaboration between Hawaii and Humboldt, showing how we do things here, showing how they're doing things out there on the Big Island. I just put some seeds in the mail for those guys. We're going to be growing some of the same ganja seeds this year, a bunch of seeds from the DEM family. So that's very exciting. Yeah, so we shot some videos a couple of weeks ago. I shot a video on starting seeds. I shot a video on building compost, and I shot a video on how to make a very simple Jadam style high nitrogen tea out of grass. Just one of the most underrated things that we all have growing outside. grass. It's super high in nitrogen. You builds great compost, makes great ferment. Go out and cut some grass, guys. Throw it in a barrel with a little leaf mold. Put a lid on it and dilute it 30-to-1 and feed it to your plants after 2 weeks. That's like the biggest tip. That's the summary of one of these videos. So
that's great for high protozoa content, and they're great nitrogen cyclers. You get a lot of NH2 that becomes plant available.
Absolutely. And springtime, you want to cut this grass while it's nice and green right now. So our Hawaii companions just did a great video on planting fruit trees. They talk about guilds to support those trees. They've got another one about mulch. So very excited to be working with these guys. It's been a fun collaboration so far. We got a great team. I've got a really fun team I'm working with here on the farm, 2 ladies that are helping me part-time, one of which worked in this farm the last 3 years. So she's a huge asset to me. I can just pick her brain about everything. Also my friend Dana, who worked in this neighborhood growing cannabis and food for 8 years. So we've got a really strong team here, a great collaboration. They both worked in the kitchen here as well, which is a huge asset because we're picking out our seeds and we're just talking about food. We want to grow things that we can help educate people on. We just harvested a bunch of leeks this week. What the hell do we do with them? And these ladies are a huge asset that can just teach us about that. So growing a pretty big garden this year. As far as veggies, I've got about 8,000 square feet of beds and we're going to be growing 600 square feet of cannabis. I'm used to those numbers being reversed. So this is a trip for me, and I'm not a market farmer. So this is a new experience for me. But yeah, we've got some fun stuff happening on the farm. I took a note out of Josh and Kelly's book, and instead of tilling our beds, we tilled our aisles. We've got one section of this farm where they had the chickens running this winter. And I got to this farm and I'm looking at it, and there's this one section, it looks weird. The soil's all bare. It looks all flat. I can't see where the beds are. I couldn't figure out what's going on. They clued me in that they'd ran the chickens there. And in the fall, they had mulched with compost and straw, but then the chickens came in and they scratched all the topsoil off right into the aisles. The aisles had wood chips in them. So I start digging around in those aisles and it's just primo soil. It's all composted. It's all broken down. I tilled those bad boys up and just tossed them right on those beds. Now I got another 6 inches of compost and topsoil on there, and it looks amazing. So that was a big free resource. We've got another garden here. In Humboldt, it's a little weird about personal use. You're allowed to grow 200 square feet per parcel as long as you're on a 40-acre parcel or larger for personal use. So we have 3 parcels that are larger than that. We've got 200 acres total. So we're allowed to go 600 square feet for personal use this year. And that'll give us enough medicine to have a little learning garden and do some little online workshops and classes or whatever it's going to be. So one of these gardens I'm developing this year, it's called the Buddha Garden. It's actually a garden right next to this house that I'm living in, which is really nice. I can, stroll out of bed and be in my garden. Back in the day, it was a beautiful herb garden. I remember this garden really popping many years ago. It's been taken over by a really invasive grass called quack grass. It's really gnarly. It's spread by the roots. You don't want to dig up those roots and move it anywhere. It'll spread. So building a bunch of hugels in there, which is something I love to do. I love using on-site resources. I hate going to the grocery store. We live an hour from town, so I hate going to town, period. So anytime I can gather some free resources, I'm happy about it. So we dug some big trenches, brought in a bunch of rotted wood. We've got some areas we're clearing a bunch of coyote brush from. We're using those resources. We're constantly clearing our fire ladders here. We're in fire country, so cutting lots of wood out of the woods and using that. We're chipping woods. We're pulling all these weeds out of the old beds in the garden. That's our nitrogen source. Covering back up with the topsoil, with the soil that we dug out of those trenches. We're going into the native soil. And then we're going to just add compost and straw and go in the ground. So that's been really fun. I love building those hugels. And once again, using grass. We're just weed whipping and throwing that grass on those hugels as a nitrogen source. Something that's so underrated. I want to give a big shout out to just your local community right now. One of my biggest resources has been just reaching out to my local community. This started about a month ago as I went online to try to buy some seeds to get this garden popping, and surprise, there were no seeds. Seeds were sold out. Companies were either not selling. Johnny's was only selling to commercial accounts for a while. A lot of companies were just not taking any new orders because they were selling out. They couldn't keep up with the orders. So I put out the word through my Facebook, through our social media. We've got a little local Facebook group up here just saying, hey, these are the things we're looking for. This is what we've got. And we were able to come up on an incredible amount of seeds that have been grown in this neighborhood, saved in this neighborhood. A neighbor gave us, 10 different lettuces and a bunch of different spinaches. We planted those and they came up, boom, immediately. That's been a huge asset. Every time I've needed something lately, I've just reached out to my local group. I was looking for a bunch of depth tarps, old depth tarps. I've got some areas I want to cover, some really weeded out beds I just want to cover with some black tarps to just smother those weeds before I prep those beds. So, you go to the dump here and those freaking, they're just filled with this depth tarp. There's so much of this plastic depth tarp going into the landfill right now. So I was able to divert 3 30 by 150 pieces from there from a neighbor of mine. And hopefully we'll be taking good care of those, be able to reuse those for a lot of years. The latest thing that came out of that community, seeking out the community, I'm just looking for a big water tank. I was just looking for a big water tank to dilute and my ferments in. Put out the word. I got a lady down the hill here said, hey, if you come help me roll my 3,000 gallon tank into place, you can have my 1,000 gallon tank. So next week when her tank comes in, 4 of us from the crew here are going to go down there, roll her tank into place and come home with a, $700-800 water tank. So that's my advice while we're all staying at home. Reach out to your community for what you need before you go hit that grow store. We got to start looking into this barter system. We got to get back to small community living, and that's a big way to do it. So I think that's all I got. I think that's all I got for now. I'm going to roll my joint up now and check back in shortly.
And I think that it's really great, we're talking about regenerative products and here, this is an educational product that, Heartwood is going to be offering. And yeah, big, huge shout out to Delphina and Bennett for really carrying what your parents had started and that incredible energy of community-centric. How can we all become closer? How can we become better? And really highlighting and offering a space for the cannabis community, long time, ancient cannabis community happening there. And now Heartwood is really supporting it from the bottom up. And I'm really stoked about what's going to be happening with that in the future, as well as, we offer DEM Pure certifications to farms. And we've been talking with Joey about helping to create this amazing curriculum that students can come through this and become DEM Pure certified farmers, but without having land. Not everybody can afford land. Not everybody has land. People are coming from the city, but it will be really awesome to be able to pair those students with a lot of the DEM Pure certified farms so they get a hands-on experience even outside of Heartwood. I'm just really excited about this to unfold.
And on the note of food and seeds, I think it's really important for people to realize that a lot of the foods that we eat contain seeds. Yeah. And they're very easy to propagate. And lettuces is not an example of that, but you can get lettuce seed and then grow it out once. But a lot of the foods that we eat have seeds in them, and it's kind of an aha moment to just learn how to dry those seeds out and use them. And we did that at the last Heartwood gathering that we got squash and all the winter squash and everything that had seed, and we wouldn't let them put it in the compost pile. We made a seed mandala out of all of the seeds and then gave them out to everyone. So seeds can be in abundance. And like what you said about the aisles and using the aisles, I think aisles are the uncharted territory. And also I would like to say that gardens are an uncharted territory of seed production. and we've said this lots of times, I'll say it again, gardens are often, you focus on the fruit, or you focus on, you know, the what you're getting, but we should be focusing on the seed that garden creates.
And speaking of seeds, we really want to talk with you, Jesse, about the breeding that you've been doing for a long time, specifically for capturing those trichomes. You know, the work that we've seen you do has just been incredible throughout the years, and your strains are just getting better and better, and they're more resinous, more terpy. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about regenerative breeding and cultivation turning into a concentrate, a high quality concentrate practice.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I want to thank Ganja Gill for just the amazing work that he does, and that was just awesome listening to it, because that's real terroir, that's real Appalachian. You know, it's like the care that you put into the plant selection, to the growing, to the end product, and a clean capture. It's amazing. And when you hear you're talking about you're smoking 160 micron heads and stuff, like, you know that the cannabis going into that was very clean and it was grown super well. Those are very ripe trichomes, and it also means you've cleaned really well. You don't have the contaminants. Amazing.
No,
work.
thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It's a huge compliment. I really appreciate you saying that, Jesse. Thank you very much. It means a lot, man, coming from you.
Oh, and I'm also excited. Like, you know, I don't like the comparison with wine too, but having that cellar of different years of hash, that's amazing too. And it's a really cool thing to look at, especially for Appalachian. And I don't know, I think we should do a future like best year tasting party when this is all over, or maybe over line. But yeah, I think it's a really important thing into looking into for Appalachians. And actually it'd be cool to connect like your observations and with the work that Holly Hall is doing, and the Appalachian Project in general, because I think like the hash, you know, really kind of completes that cycle a bit, because there's that end process. Sorry, I was barking at something. And man, Joey, the work you're doing, like, wow, like that's just super incredible to hear. And like all the soil prepping, and it was such an amazing gathering, that last one with the Dragonfly Earth Medicine gathering that we had, and it felt really special, like us all being together. And so it feels really good that you are continuing carrying that torch there and uniting community. As far as the breeding, and also the work that Resin Ranch does too, amazing hash. And it was that cooperation between you guys, and it was a treat that you guys grew the genetics on your place, and it's just amazing to see. So like years ago, started, you know, we always had bubble hash, and, you know, it melted pretty good. And, you know, some of us like made some pretty good bubble hash, but then all of a sudden, you know, we started seeing this insanely clean stuff. And, you know, definitely Bubble Man is a big pioneer in all of that. And thank you for, you know, really putting that out there. Especially at such an important time when people were doing some pretty dirty BHO practices. It was great to see that that evolution of the hash renaissance of amazing bubble hash and ice water hash. And so working with Simply Adam, he's a bit of a savant when it comes to cleanly trichomes, and it was amazing to look at the plant through his eyes and the process of hash making through his eyes, and apply that to the breeding and thinking about the genetics and what kind of trichome comes out. Gil had mentioned, you know, something that would be a little more of a dry hash on the banana side. Like those capture really well, very easy for also dry sift, very, you know, grading and stuff. There's like greasing out and different issues that are difficult with different hashes, and they have different qualities. You know, it's not necessarily good or bad always, but being able to look through his eyes and seeing the qualities of that hash and the difficulties with the process, or sometimes what was really easy, was great. And then also seeing the percent yield over the years, and seeing all the farms grow different genetics, and being able to hear like the percent yields from someone like Gil too. Like he was listing some massive 8.5% on your GMO. That's awesome. I'm really excited to see what the GMO with the the Banana Valley Dog does out there too, and everything else. It'll be really exciting to see, because I know you're going to do it justice, and I know we get to learn about that. That's such a huge closed loop for me, is also learning about that end information. What were the qualities? What were the percent yields? Because that's what's going to make a farmer successful too. And God, this whole process, like everyone here, what I really love about this is this has happened organically. It's happened through people's good intentions, like the work that Ryan's doing. It's amazing. Like, thank you for, really you and Charlotte, like, for caring and for being connected, and for, you seek out the good people and you try to learn everything that you can and you apply it. And it's, we just need more like you. And just seeing this connection between, the genetics, between the farms, between the extractor, and then, and then thinking about the issues with packaging and all of that, how we're going to deal with that environmental issue. And thank you, Season, for looking into the sustainable packaging too, and sauna packaging. And there's a lot of restrictions there that hopefully we can change to better the environment, but let's support those companies that are doing the work to lessen the impacts. There's no such thing as regenerative packaging at the moment. It's all an impact. So I mean, the more we can go towards sustainability, the better. But we don't want to fool ourselves. We need to do real environmental accounting. Like, greenwashing is not okay. It's like, just because it sounds good doesn't mean it is. We need real accounting, and we need to support the companies that are doing this work. So thank you guys. And then hearing about the CO2 extraction, you guys, wow, it's really cool. I'd love to come and see everything that you're doing, and the fact that you're working with the farms, and hearing about the percent yields that we're getting back on the farms that are doing these practices. I think that's really important information. This is like where this all kind of comes together in agriculture, because we are doing all of these things. I think we separate a lot of these things in standard agriculture, and here we're like bringing it all together. It's like the genetics for a successful yield for the product that we're talking about, the practices that don't cost money, that regenerate themselves, that build more soil, that sequester carbon, that put out the best product possible, and then a process of like ice water where you get to put that plant back in and then have more soil, and just taking those magic trichomes out that, that 8% in freaking Gil's world. And then people get to enjoy that and have that effect. And then having these amazing extractors and companies really think about how to navigate these systems and how to get these products out to people that make sense, and how to keep them healthy. It's just amazing to see. This is a real full circle. This is going beyond the farm. In farming, like, you want to think about the outside, the woods around you, everything around your environment needs to be healthy if you really want to have a healthy farm. And so expanding this to the greater network, I think, is just so important. So I just want to thank everyone for the awesome work that you guys are doing.
Right on, Jesse. Give thanks. You're a beautiful person. We love your family, your dogs, your partner, everything we've talked about in the past. Thank you for that reflection. Appreciate that. And Marcus, I was wondering if you would be open to talking to us about what you
and Ruby and Paul too, jump in after Marcus.
Yeah. I was just thinking, Marcus, you're involved with Whistler Technologies and also some things here in British Columbia having to do with just equipment, and a lot of people here having to use different equipment, and maybe you could tell us a little bit.
And we talk a lot about regenerative products, but it goes all the way down to the equipment, and like, how can we best use electricity, or what kind of technologies are you all finding?
Or what do you think the next best thing is? Like, what should we be striving for? It's spring right now. What are some essential tools you feel we need to be able to create the best extracts?
And Paul and Ruby, Paul, you all have built that from scratch, and it's so tight and amazing. So after Marcus, we'd love to hear about what ecological things you all are doing with your manufacturing.
Yeah, well, I mean, for people doing it at home, I mean, you can do it with almost anything. It's really quite something how you can get away with, making hash with silk screen or making water hash, even without bags. I've seen people do it just by, mixing the material up and filtering through like coffee filters or whatever. But you know, for Whistler Technologies, that's a different sort of beast. That is getting into regulations. It's getting into the intense microbial certificate of analysis that it goes through from the labs. And suddenly now you're getting freeze dryers because not everyone knows how to air dry it properly, especially if you're in the Pacific Northwest, where it's just always very high humidity and rainy, and it's hard to get hash properly dry without using a desiccant or something. Most people can't sieve it or microplane it small enough and spread it small enough so that it actually really properly dries, especially up here in like Washington State and British Columbia on the West Coast. So, you get into, and also the machines like the bubble nows and these, basically plastic washing machines. You can't be doing commercial production and selling product like that to people like that, maybe if you take it apart in your own place and big shop.
Maybe he's glitching. If is he glitching for everyone, or is it just us?
Yeah, Marcus, we
That's
can't
a
hear
pretty
you.
cool face, if we're honest.
We lost the host.
Can you hear us?
So maybe we'll just Paul, if and Ruby, if you had something to say on that, you could take over.
And we'll come back
We'll
to
come back
Marcus.
to Marcus when he comes in.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking, we're talking about it's spring and what can we do and what are next steps. And I think it's really important to take a moment to acknowledge that something really exciting happened when the lockdown started, and that's cannabis was recognized as an essential service by people all over the world, both like legally and formally and publicly, but also just by people's firm belief that these businesses were going to continue to serve them and those businesses continuing to serve them. And so when I think in our own business and in this particular time about what being regenerative means, I think it means being really good citizens and participating in hyper local economies and taking care of your supply chains and your people. I think that this is a time where regenerative behavior and regenerative belief and regenerative systems are at a human level. And so this is the moment to plant good intentions and plant forward-thinking plans and plant money into the small businesses and the people that are crafting great products, really making sure that you're not just selling your products, but you're selling everyone else's products, asking your competitors if they have what they need in their supply chains, asking the farms that have different practices than you what they need in order to get through this year. I think that it's exciting that the whole world has finally just acknowledged, like there's too much going on and we can't like screw around anymore. We just need to know that we can get our cannabis and that cannabis can be safe and, people, and that there's going to be social justice around it. So that's what I would say this spring we should be planting, is those really great intentions around humanity in our own community.
I think that's spot on,
Good.
particularly on the eve of May Day, as we.
Right.
I mean, if we people have been doing this for generations before. We are simply taking the torch, and we are at a precipice though where it is becoming widely acceptable, and this we all know this, but as other intention and other money and other influence comes into this community, we are at this inflection point where we can come together, and I think reaching out to competitors is key given how large this whole thing is going to continue. And at the end of the day, though, no matter what, you know, I've got a gourmet low dose probiotic cannabis chocolate. It's nothing without legacy farmers with their hands in the soil. And so, you know, it is key that we push that forward. Those of us that are not actually cultivating ourselves, we have to at least cultivate that knowledge. And so it's great to hear you guys are thinking that way. And Josh and Kelly, thank you for making that connection here.
Yeah, thank you.
Marcus, you just came on. Nice to see you.
So I would like to take this moment to do a special shout out to a friend who was really big in our community and big with extracts, and Spencer Hodgson is no longer with us. And he was an amazing
He would be on this.
Lion Paw Organics, and his family is keeping the farm going. And I want to acknowledge him right now because they're just really beautiful people, and it's really not okay what happened there, but we're making it okay in our hearts. And you know, he's just always had this incredible farm, incredible soils, is far ahead with making rosin, and his family was supportive. So, you know, big up Lion Paw.
And I gotta say, he came to Emerald Cup with the coolest Christmas ornaments I have ever seen. So they were glass Christmas ornaments, and filled inside of the ornaments were all the male flowers. And for some reason, we're planting all of our seeds, and I'm doing spring cleaning. And I was feeling so bad that I didn't get any lion paw seeds. And I pulled out those ornaments, and on the top of the flowers, there are about 20 seeds that we just planted yesterday. And he was an amazing hash breeder, hash maker, and they are now in the ground.
We got the lion paw.
Hell yeah. Marcus, you got cut off.
I did. I had to come back on my phone. It's still going on YouTube, so that's good, but it did stop recording on Zoom, which is for the podcast, but I'll figure it out. Yeah, you know what, I was just going to say that, you know, there is a place for sort of larger equipment, and I know everyone likes to do things a little bit smaller, but yeah, the Whistler Technologies equipment is really great stuff. It's we've been having fun with it for the last couple of years. Whistler Medical was the first company to really allow Daniel to do the R&D, and they were the ones that invested in it first and sort of put their, you know, their best foot forward on that. They were already growing organic cannabis, still regulated by Health Canada, so not what I would call regenerative by any means, but they've always just done organic cannabis. And, you know, they wanted to make water hash out of that. So they, you know, Daniel kind of took over their hash making scene, and he was making water hash. And then he really kind of figured out, especially for Canada, that, you know, how are you going to get people away from some of these, you know, solvent extractions, give them another option, give them that water and ice option, but make it economically viable. So the cool thing that Daniel did was he created a thing called the terpene reactor. And it's basically this reactor that, you know, you can put fresh, wet bubble into, and you can decarboxylate it and filter it through these membranes, and it comes out uber high terpene concentrate sublingual oil. So like twice as high of a terpene content than most of the other companies in Canada that were selling these same sort of oils, because the plant is you know, fresh frozen, grown organic, fresh frozen, run through the water hash at a very cold temperature. The wet bubble goes right into this unit, and it's all sealed and under vacuum. So you end up preserving all these terpenes in a very unique way. And that made it sort of economically viable, because when you do anything at a larger scale, you know, you start getting into different pain points. And of course, we've seen that in agriculture when they went too big. Big ag is just this sort of nightmarish hell that's unleashed itself upon the earth. I'm sure it didn't have those intentions when it was let's get bigger and bigger and bigger, but it inevitably happened. So you know, we're trying to keep that in check, but still be able to help people to have another option, this ITAL water and ice extraction process. And that terp reactor really made it economically viable for companies that were thinking about it, because, you know, you don't really want to have freeze dryer space for, you know, where you're going to dry your bubble hash in large amounts anyway, if the quality isn't there. And that quality that's not there for a dabbable inhalable product can certainly go into a sublingual oil that is extremely medicinal, and it's effective when it has the high terpene content. It's just like cannabis that you inhale. Those terpenes modulate the effects of those cannabinoids, and it's really felt even by, you know, people that don't have a lot of experience with cannabis. So him doing that really sort of made this whole thing viable. And yeah, we've just been sharing the joys of water extraction now on a different level with stainless equipment that can be autoclaved and cleaned of all microbial content between runs, and ensure that the medicine is medicine.
Nice one. That's really cool and super interesting. I'm really excited to get over there and check it out. And big love to Daniel and Brishna and even Dennis Perrone, who, you know, put that Whistler Medical together, and, you know, is an amazing person and has done a lot, I think, a lot for Canada on the organic cannabis level. So big up Dennis Perrone and everyone here in Canada and stuff is trying to make it better in this crazy market here, regulated market.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the point where we're now down for about 2 hours, and we really have had a beautiful show. I really wish I could hear more from everyone, and if anyone has any things they'd like to say, please do. I was just gonna reflect one moment. We found that we have this videotape that we have from 2001 that we just got made into a digital form. We just watched it last night, and it shows us out in our garden out in the mountain in 2001, and it's phenomenal. I mean, the words that you would think that we took the video last week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit like, wow, you still say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. But 2000, we're out there, you know, working natural gardens, you know, making nutrients out of our weeds. We didn't know anything about the internet and all that. And I just really feel it was a beautiful reflection, kind of a reminder. I mean, my voice was different. I mean, it was 20 years ago, and it was kind of like, it was crazy to watch it. But we were planting by the moon. In the video, we were talking about how important it is to have flowers growing with your cannabis and having a cannabis dog. It just made me feel really good. And in 1999, we were cannabis refugees up to Canada, and we left Oregon. We still have all of our family there and everything. But
it made me wonder, like, we're now here on our property, and I'm just like, what are we doing here on our property? Why are we not out in the bush growing these amazing magical gardens? It's been such an awesome reflection of where we came from, and Sky is out there watering the plants, and the dogs are running around that we had 20 years ago. And it just gave me such incredible love for this cannabis community. I cannot say it enough, the deep, heartfelt love I have for all of you all watching, the people that are here on this panel, the people who embrace cannabis, bring it into their lives, take it on as a mentor, as a teacher. It connects us all. And I'm just so thankful, because we are born into family, but my chosen family is this cannabis community and this cannabis family. And I'm so happy to be walking this journey with you, and all of us working towards this incredible common goal. And I do believe that this is going to change the world. The Mayans said that a flower was going to change the world in this time. And I believe that we are the holders, all of the people watching this, you are the medicine makers. You are the holders, or the keepers of this incredible medicine.
And you're what we have to look forward to.
Yeah.
And, you know, the time is precious, and this COVID, or whatever you want to call it, this outbreak, this awareness, the opportunity in it is that, you know, we're aware of our food supply, and we're aware of our immune system. So I think we've done a really good job on these series to try and cover different aspects of that and to highlight the different parts of our community that really embody these different things. We want to thank each and every one of you on this panel and everyone that's listening to us tonight, still out in the world, the people out in Europe, everywhere in Africa, all over Asia. We're just really, really thankful. And now we're gonna, maybe Kelly can give us.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up with the astrology for this week.
And for those of you that don't know, the Wee Moon is a very good publication for moon planting and for wise women herbal knowledge.
And I want to talk about like regenerative, small community touching and educating. This is a women's cooperative that's down in Southern Oregon. They print this and they are incredible.
I think they're outside of Portland, if I'm honest.
Anyway, incredible community of women. So this week, it's such an exciting week because we're going in from the half moon to the full moon, and it's going to be a full moon in Scorpio, and it is one of the best full moons to plant things, transplant things, go crazy on the full moon.
And May 1st is Beltane.
And so tomorrow is actually, moon is in Virgo, which it's a barren sign, which since it's Beltane, take the day to celebrate, y'all. This is the day to give thanks to the earth and remember our roots and the ancient cultures that have always been growing and cultivating and moving throughout the earth. We've always celebrated this time.
And Beltane is a moment where you light a fire, and maybe we don't have fires, maybe we're not outside, maybe we light a candle, but the Beltane is about fire and giving thanks for what's coming. You've sown your seeds, a lot of them by this time. We're still sowing seeds. We'll sow seeds every 2 weeks all summer. But here is that it's a blessing moment. It's a blessing earth moment for us to give thanks for this crop and what we have.
And setting the tone for the entire growing season. So let's put out the prayers, let's touch the earth, let's give all of our good energy to our incredible growing season. So that moves right into Saturday and Sunday. It's a great time to weed, is a wonderful time to prepare your beds, get those aisles filled with compost. And then on Monday, we start moving into Libra. So really those last ganja seeds and pollinator seeds that you haven't planted, Monday and Tuesday is the time to do it. And it's sort of starting to become the last time to get those pollinator seeds in, as well as your cannabis seeds in for full season. And then Wednesday, we're moving into the Scorpio full moon phase, and everything goes. Anything that has to do with plants, fun, being joyful out in the garden, whimsical, time to plant it all. So there you go, astrology, gardening for the week.
So thank you, family. Maybe we can end it by each one of you could say, where people could find you on Instagram or out in the world. And unless someone has something else to say.
Yeah, now's the time. We really appreciate and love you all so much.
We're Josh and Kelly from Dragonfly Earth Medicine.
Yeah.
Brian from getaura.com.
Season from Five Sisters Farm.
Jesse of BioVortex and Regenerative Cannabis Farming.org. Oh, and much love to Spencer and Dennis and to the seeds.
Yeah, much love to Spencer. I'm growing some Klamath Kush this year. I'm very excited to have some seeds. He gave me at the Emerald Cup a couple of years ago, and we sent some out to Hawaii as well to our sister farm there. I'm Joey Berger, the Humboldt local on Instagram. Please follow Heartwood Hub as well as Dragonheart Farm. You can find us all on Facebook as well, same names. Much love.
And we are Paul and Ruby from Full Circle CO2. You can find us at Full Circle CO2 on Instagram, and you can find me and my writing at Ruby Gone Wild on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you.
I'm Ganja Gill. Ganja_Gill_ on Instagram. And my hash page is The Real Ice Book. And I just wanted to tell everyone to save their seeds. I've gotten lazy over the years, and I've come to rely on other people and seed outlets. You know, everyone loves Baker Creek, SKU seeds. If you look up on their sites, you know, a lot of the seeds are gone this year. Everyone's buying them up. Didn't take very long. They're already gone. So everyone save your seeds. It's important. Much love to everyone. Thanks for your time, everybody. Really nice hanging out with you.
And Brandon and Amanda couldn't make it tonight, so
From
big,
Garden
big
Grease.
love to Kush Kirk and Amanda Reed. Awesome people. Thank you so much, everyone out in the world. Go make the world a better place. Just do your best.
And next week, make sure to join us, same time, same place. We're going to be really digging deep into food sovereignty and medicine sovereignty and the incredible importance of it.
We're going to be hearing from our family in Hawaii and hearing about food sovereignty from different parts of the world. Give thanks. One love.
Blessings. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Right on.